Good evening. My name is Paul O'Brien. I'll be sitting in for the chair this evening. I'm going to call to order the July 2nd Wolfeboro Select Board meeting at 6:30 in the evening. This is my first time doing this as chair, so please bear with me. Mr. Senecal is away. He may be late, or he may not be here at all, so I have the duty. Mr. Pinio, do we have a need for a non-public?
We do not.
That's good news. Thank you very much, Mr. Pinio. We have minutes to look at. First will be the May 14th minutes, which is a work session. Comments, Ms. Murray?
Yes, I have one on the first page, and it's where it's under, I second the motion, and then I said, and it's in italics, Mrs. Murray withdrew her second, stepping down from any vote on the issue or motion, and I'd like on the end of this, because of a conflict of interest, so that people know why I stepped down.
Any objection? No objection. Any other comments on the May 14th minutes?
Yeah, I have one. Page number 2, last reference to Deshays. So also it says that, where is it? Big Sandy, I can vote for a few times. Okay, so they write, also states Back Bay town docks are too narrow and should not be used by the general public due to safety concerns. That was not my statement. My statement was, also states that the walking width by the stairs on the island dock and jet ski dock is narrow enough that it should not be used by the general public. So that's what my statement was. It's different than what they said, because this is a broad-reaching statement that says that all those docks back there are too narrow. The only one that's too narrow, and I explained this 4 times, was the space between the stairs and the edge of the dock is only about, I think, 27 inches wide. It doesn't meet any safety for walking for a person through to get to. Only the finger that has the jet ski and the island docking.
Ms. Murray?
Yeah, I would request that you send that in writing to the secretary. It's hard for her to pick up every little word.
Will do.
I think that's right. And clearly you checked with the YouTube or the video to check on the veracity. Okay, so we'll accept that at the moment. Any other changes to this? Hearing none, do I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion that we accept the May 14th minutes of our work session as amended.
Second.
Motion by Linda, second by Mr. Deshay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We're good. Thank you. Okay, the next is June 18th, regular meeting. Ms. Murray?
Yes, on page 11, and it is the second sentence from the top. At the end, it should say, did not miss Mrs. Murray. I'd like did not be put in there.
This is the attribution to Mr. Thurston's comment?
That's right. It's the second sentence from the very top at the end. It should say, did not miss Mrs. Murray.
Yes, I see that. Okay. Anyone else?
Page 6, second reference to Deshays. It says, a food truck policy would outlined for Pop Whalen and Abenaki. It should say a food truck policy should be outlined for Pop Whalen and Abenaki.
Okay. Anyone else? Hearing nothing else, do I have a motion to approve these minutes?
Move to approve the Wednesday, June 18, 2025 Board of Selectmen minutes as amended.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second by Ms. Murray. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're good?
Yep.
Okay, public input. 3 minutes per resident and 20 minutes in total. Anybody want to come on up and have some public input?
Suzanne Ryan, resident.
This is relevant to the June 18th Board of Selectmen's meeting. Dave and Linda, I thought Dave was going to be here. Dave and Linda have close to a half a century as selectmen combined. Paul and Brian both have 2 terms of selectmen under your belt. Thurston has what, 3 months, maybe 4? On June 18th, under Article number 9 on your agenda, other business, was a statement, and even if the public understood what that long statement was under the subject matter of 91A as one way to air a misunderstanding, it was an embarrassment to watch, an embarrassment to listen to, and an embarrassment of the board. And if you didn't feel that way, you should have. You were all freshman selectmen at one time or another. You all had to learn. It just doesn't come automatically. It's not easy. So I would ask, please show patience, direction, and temperance in your deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public input?
Good evening, members of the board. Will you be entertaining public input?
Your name, please, for the record.
Michael Hodder, Wolfeboro.
Thank you.
Will you be entertaining public input at the time you discuss the striping and the parking downtown later on in this evening's session? Or is this the only available public input prior to that discussion?
Board members?
I don't have any problem if we take public input at that time. A lot of times we'll open up a discussion to public input. I think that's okay.
Anyone else?
I think the other people at the other meetings got a chance to speak, and so we should let the rest of the public speak.
And I believe that the public should have a right to speak. The only concern I may have is with our chair not here and a board at 4. We may need to push that meeting back to the next. I'm not sure yet, haven't decided.
So you may not be considering the motion at all tonight?
I haven't decided yet.
None of the rest of us knew that. It's on our agenda. When we come to it, I'm assuming we're going to deal with it one way or another.
Well, then, rather than putting you to the further embarrassment, I'll just read a short statement that I have regarding this particular issue, and hopefully it'll stick in your minds and you come to deliberate the question. I have 3 points to make. I'll be as brief as I can. I'll try to stay within my 3 minutes. Point 1, if striping the crosswalk adjacent lots was a matter of some public safety urgency a few weeks ago, what's changed now? If the select board votes to alter the present striping arrangements, it will appear to the public that the board is sacrificing public safety for pressure from self-interested groups in town, to be quite blunt. Number 2, those who have tried to specify a number on the retail sales value of a parking lot are basically whistling Dixie. The value of a parking space can only be set following detailed year-long study of the revenue generated by an exclusively applied parking space. Only one company, one business can use one space. That space looked at over a year's time, figuring out the amount of revenue that space generates per car, per number of occupants per car, and so on, is the only way you can establish the value of a parking space. A $20,000 figure that we saw quoted in the newspaper last week is specious. And number 3, leaving the present arrangement unchanged promotes pedestrian crosswalk safety, makes abutting storefronts street visible where they're not now, blocked by rows of cars, and creates a pedestrian-friendly appearing town. So I would ask you please, when you come to deliberate, leave the present arrangement unchanged. Thank you.
Anyone else? Good evening.
Isaac McKenzie, Blue Ghost, U.S. Mailboat. So I didn't bring my notes from the last work session because I didn't know public input was going to be right now, but there are some things I want to bring up. One was give you guys some more history. Before the Tonamar was the Columbia, which was running in the early 1900s. In fact, that was at one point sunk on Lake Winnipesaukee. And in fact, the steam engine that came out of it, that they pulled out of the lake, was at some other museum down in Mass for a while, but now it's actually over at the Wolfeboro, the new Wolfeboro, New Hampshire Boat Museum. But that was, before the Tonamar, that was the mailboat on the eastern half of the lake. It would come to Wolfeboro, it would carry passengers and mail, just like we always have for, over 100 years. And that was I think a 60-foot boat. Some other input was, you guys were talking about, I guess, trying to figure out somehow how to solve the crowded docks and figuring out who to charge to, pay for the docks. But I know I constantly see 50-foot personal recreational boats, yachts, ocean boats that are docked there, even taking up the end spots that everybody wants to take, and they don't ever really step foot off their boat. They have a kitchen, they have a bed there, they just basically have a picnic for the day at the town docks and don't go shopping anywhere. So I just want to bring that up. I don't know if it would be a good idea to either limit, the size of those boats and taking up the ends, or even charge for the end spots. I mean, if you guys are going to have dock attendants on the weekends, they're already helping people dock. They can take payment for people that are going to dock on the end spots, because there's plenty of spots that are even open, and so many people just line up out in the bay because they don't want to attempt to squeeze in there and find the open spots. They wait for those end spots because they're not confident in their docking abilities. So that's just an idea. And another thing you guys brought up, you were talking about some buoys, one of the public beaches, and it being within 10 feet or something, and you guys weren't allowing, to my knowledge, the town doesn't own any of the water. They own the docks, you maintain the docks and where people put boats in and out of the water, but the state owns the water and it's in a trust for public use. So I don't think you guys technically have any right to tell somebody, obviously if it's a mooring, they need a permit, they need all that, but to tell somebody that I don't know what the situation was, but to my knowledge, the town has no jurisdiction over the actual water below the high water mark. And yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing no one else, I'm going to move to public hearings. We have a few temporary event permits to discuss and deliberate on. The first is that the Wolfeboro Select Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, July 2nd, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. to consider a temporary event permit application for the Wolfeboro Economic Development Committee to host Lake Winnipesaukee Day at the Town Docks, Dockside, and Kate Park on August 8th, 2025 from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Rain date, August 10th. Permit number 2025-43. Do we have anybody here who's going to speak to that?
So without Lucy Van Cleve here, as a representative to the EDC, I can speak on it. We will have all the proper safeties in place. We will have all the proper permits in place. We are now on year 1, 2, 3, 4. We had the Mount Washington's 150th birthday, and then the other Lake Winnipesaukee Day events. So we're on year 4. And Fundraising is going well, and we have a lot of interest and a lot of people that are pitching in and helping out for the event. It's a community event. There's no charge to the people who set up tables and vendors, and there's going to be a big children's section run by volunteers, and food is paid for, and the restaurants are packed that night. So if there's any questions, just let me know.
Board members? I just have one. Brian, I'll be very frank with you, I did not go over your application or the application of Lucy with a fine-tooth comb. You used the future tense, will have. Do you have all the
Yes.
necessary? You do. Okay.
Everything's in place.
Everything's in place.
Meaning we'll at the event, we will have.
Oh, okay, I got it. All right. One last call for board members?
Yeah, so I can recall one of the patrons downtown, and they rent the town property, and there was some food trucks put right up next to his establishment, and there was some exhaust running, and it was being drawn in because of the fans in his establishment. Are the food trucks still going to be behind?
The food trucks will be placed per the recommendations by the fire chief and will be in proper locations.
So that, I don't think that clarifies that.
What else do you need to know? The fire chief gets to determine where those trucks go.
I'm just relaying what the concern was, the exhaust was being pulled into a public establishment.
Okay?
Duly noted.
Noted, okay. Good. Okay, Linda?
Yeah, Brian, in front of the docks, are there going to be food in that area? Right now, you have it blank, yet other years there have been different concessions in front of those docks. Are you planning?
The only thing that might happen is next to Hot Dog Bob may be the pizza oven. Again, if he can bring it. That's where it was last year. It was right beside Hot Dog Bob.
So looking at the lake, there will be nothing to the right of the ramp heading down to the dockside
No.
restaurant in front of all those docks?
Nope.
That's going to be open this year, which
Yep.
is different from last year.
Yep.
I'm just pointing that out. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have just a caution by Selectman Thurston.
Yep.
Linda had a clarifying question. Is there any other questions, issues, John?
So I have the diagram here from Jim, and it's in the location, the food truck is in the location where it was parked before, and I'm wondering if the food truck can be parked in Bucky's spot in the alley, if the alley was going to be closed off.
The alleys have a slope to them, and food trucks can't use the slope because they use boiling water and oils in cooking and whatnot, and they can't have a slope to their vehicle. It's a safety hazard.
Okay.
Would you like a motion?
I would.
I move to issue a temporary event permit to the Wolfeboro Economic Development Committee to host Lake Winnipesaukee Day at the town docks, dockside Cape Park on August 8th, 2025, from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., rain date August 10th. Also, the dockside parking lot will be closed from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. Permit number 2025-43.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I have to abstain because I'm on the,
But you did a nice job explaining it.
Yeah.
But please note the concern.
yes.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
So what was the vote?
It's unanimous.
301.
I didn't hear. I
3-0.
didn't hear.
Yeah.
I didn't hear everybody. I didn't see everybody's hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Okay, second public hearing, the Wolfeboro Select Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, July 2nd at 6:30 p.m. to consider a temporary event permit application for the Wolfeboro Historical Society to host the Anaskag Engine Reserve Company Tour on June 19th, 2025, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at 233 South Main Street, the Clark Museum Complex. Permit number 2025-44. We have someone who's going to speak to it.
Yes, we do.
Good evening.
Hello, this is Pat Hodder. I'm a board member for the Historical Society, and I don't have a lot of information about the specifics, so Mr. Mulholland behind me is going to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Passing out the tickets. Thank you, Mr. Mulholland. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So the Amesky Reserve Engine Company was founded in 1984, currently has 60 members. It runs all over the state of New Hampshire. They do great work. I've been a member for, 6 years now. I have 3 of my own trucks. The fleet keeps growing. So it's great people. It's open, as you can see in the flyers there, it's open to anybody. You don't have to have a truck. And we, like I said, we go all over the state of New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts. They do anything from touch trucks, kids events, believe it or not, birthday parties, weddings, and of course the thing that you folks know I do, the stuff a fire truck for toys, every Thanksgiving during the holiday period. So it's great things to do. There's nothing more Americana than a fire service. We appreciate the approval of this. The club also is a 501c3, has its own insurance policy, and each member has insurance on their vehicles. So I'll take any questions.
Thank you, sir. Board members, questions?
Yeah, are you going to park the engines in the parking lot of the museum?
I believe that's the plan, but we will park them as the members of the Clark House Historical.
Yeah, as long as we don't get them on the grass, as long as you're all set.
Yes.
Thank
And
you.
of course, our interest is, that is a fire museum down there as well.
Yep,
It's the other
yep.
half of it, so that's the interest.
Yep.
Yeah, there has been concern too that there would be visitors parking all on the lawn area, and we've had a little bit of concern by a few people who live in the neighborhood about that. So I don't know, just hopefully the flow of people coming in and out is gradual and you can keep everybody as much as you can on to the tarred parking.
I don't see there being more than 6 or 7 trucks at best. I mean,
Okay.
they come from different areas of the state, so there'll be people there, probably 15 of us there.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I move to approve. We approve the temporary event permit application for the Wolfeboro Historic Society to host the Amesky Engine Reserve Company Tour on July 19th, 2025, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at 233 South Main Street, Clark Museum Complex, permit number 2025-44.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much, sir.
One more question. Would you be interested in bringing a fire truck if we could find a spot down to Lake Winnipesaukee Day?
Absolutely.
We'll talk later.
Just trying to hit them up for extra
Thank you.
business. This is always good. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. We have one more. And that is that the Wolfeboro Select Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, July 2nd at 6:30 p.m. to consider a temporary event permit application for the American Legion Post 18 and the Goodhue Boat Company to host a concert in the park at Cape Park and the community bandstand from 4 p.m. till 10 p.m. That includes setup and breakdown on July 3rd, 2025. Permit number 2025-45. We have someone who wants to speak to that.
This is a late submission because we didn't include it with everything else we submitted for approval. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Your name, please? Your name, please, for the record.
Oh, Tom Southern,
Thank you.
Commander Post 18, Wolfeboro. Now, where was I? That's what we're submitting this, just complete legalities of everything. I think, as I pointed out in the brochure, I think about everyone has a brochure, that there was that misprint, and I don't think it makes any difference. Music live from Liverpool is now Love from Liverpool, and as I said before, it probably doesn't make any difference. That just adds something to it. Also, I'm reminded every holiday on the July 4th, Harold Chamberlain gets on my case when I talk about celebrating the 4th of July. He says, we are not celebrating the 4th of July. We're celebrating an Independence Day on the 4th of July. He's absolutely right. So I try to correct myself anymore when something like that comes up. Oh, I just wanted to say, I don't know if you heard, it's a little late, everybody knows, the Black Hawk helicopter, which we had, the display that we were supposed to have was a static display at the Nick, kind of fell through at the last minute. There was something about personnel. We'll hope to maybe get it going next year, because there's a lot of excitement to have a Black Hawk helicopter where people at the Nick can tour it, touch it. There weren't going to be any takeoffs and landings. It was static. They're going to sit down, the display, everybody out, and they take off. Any questions?
Board members, any questions?
No.
Have a motion, please.
Move to approve a temporary event permit for the American Legion Post 18 in Goodhue Boat to host a concert in the park at Cape Park and community bandstand from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m., including setup and breakdown on July 3rd, 2025, permit number 2025-45.
Motion from Brian, do I have a second?
Second.
We have 2 seconds.
John can have it.
John's got the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None?
Thank you.
Unanimous. Thank you very much. Our last public hearing for special events will be that the Wolfeboro Select Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, July 2nd, 2025 at 6:30 to consider a temporary event permit application for the New Hampshire Boat Museum to host a Back Bay Skippers Model Yacht Open House from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Bridge Falls Path on July 3rd. Permit number 2025-46.
Hi, Ann Lennon for the New Hampshire Boat Museum. It's July 5th, it's Saturday.
Okay, I have it on my diary here as the 3rd, so we'll accept that as July 5th. Thank you.
This is a
The permit
yearly-
does say 5.
The permit says 5.
Okay. It's a yearly event. The last couple of years, we were folded under a bigger, somebody else's permit, so that's why we're kind of late to the game for this. Amy tried to get us on for the last meeting, but we didn't make it.
Right.
So it's just a few hours down Bridgefell Pass where the Back Bay Skippers already are, and anybody can come down and try to learn how to sail a boat. And it's a lot of fun. Kids love it. Last year, I think we had 28 kids and try the boats, and it's just a really fun family event.
Thank you very much. We do have your updated permit dated July 5.
Okay. And I don't know, I know we sent it late, the insurance, so I brought copies of our insurance certificate if anybody needs it.
I think we're good. Board members, any questions? I have a motion.
Move to approve a temporary event permit for the New Hampshire Boat Museum to host the Back Bay Skippers Model Yacht Club Open House from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Bridge Falls Path on July 5th, 2025, permit number 2025-46, with insurance to be supplied.
It's supplied. It's in that packet.
All right, I didn't see it.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Abstentions? We're good. Thank you very much. Okay, the next is our bulk vote. Before I begin the bulk vote, I will read it all, but I respectfully request that I ask you all to vote on all of the items except for B.II. I will step aside because I have a personal conflict relating to B.II. But I'll read them all, and
Would you like a motion that we remove that from?
would you like to do that?
I make
See, I'm
that,
a rookie, I don't know how to do it.
I would like to make that motion that we remove B2, 10 Christopher Court, and vote on it separately.
Thank you, Linda. I appreciate your experience. Okay, weekly manifest.
So can somebody for the record and for the public just give an explanation when you look at one of these pages, what we're approving? So I think the people that,
What are we approving page?
so we're approving municipal authorization, let's say, on the permit application issued for a solar energy system exemption of $10,000. So what would they be getting an exemption? How would that be happening, Jim?
I believe it's through a previously adopted warrant article by the town.
That is correct.
And
That is
and they
correct.
just get a reduction off their tax
They have to
amount?
apply
That's correct.
for the exemption.
Have to show proof.
John, I can't speak to it because it affects me, but what you just heard is accurate. All right, weekly manifest, June 20th, 2025, $592,802.86. June 27th, weekly manifest, $3,695,662.21, and that includes a school payment. Property tax credit and exemptions for 29 Wolfeboro Road, tax map 24, lot 15, 82 Wambeck Road, tax map 216, lot 1, 29 Port Wetland Road, tax map 202, lot 83, 92 Sewell Road, tax map 229, lot 46, property tax abatements and refunds, 272 College Road, number 13, 2024, tax map 118, lot 2, for $1,257.74. College Road, number 13, part 2, tax map 118, lot 10, $195.53. A raffle permit for the American Legion 50/50 raffle, July 3rd. That is the bulk vote minus items BII. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the bulk vote A through D minus B2.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any objections? All right, I'm going to stand over here and drink my soda pop. Linda, would you?
Sure. Yes, I need a motion for the bulk vote item B2.
So move to approve the bulk vote item B, Roman numeral 2.
Second that.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome.
Okay, board committee appointments, I don't believe we have any. So the next is the Libby trustees meeting. I'd like to get a motion that we go into a Libby trustees meeting, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any objection? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're in a Libby trustees meeting. Okay, and I believe that we have a report from the ad hoc committee. Dave and Maggie, you're up.
Good evening, Dave Bolduc, Heritage Commission. Just need to clarify, there's a prospectus put out. Thank you. There was a report from Aaron Sturgis that went out yesterday. We received it Monday. I have hard copies if you didn't happen to get it in your, as an email.
I have copies of it. You have copies?
I have copy.
You good?
I printed myself,
Okay.
yeah.
So, On June 10th, well, before that, the Libby trustees agreed to hire Boggle Engineering to consider the issues facing the north wall of the museum. So in preparation for that study, we went in on June 10th and opened up 3 interior sections of the wall and a section of the sloped ceiling so that the engineer and some of the other parties involved, the contractor, could see what was happening on the inside. Prior engineering studies had looked at the outside, but no one had ever exposed the interior to see what was going on. What we discovered was significant mold and rot in the 2 access areas that we opened up on the north wall. Not sill being saturated and rotted. The access, just out of curiosity, I opened up an access hole on the east wall, which is the wall facing downtown. And to my surprise, there is not a stitch of mold in that cavity. That cavity is as dry, the sill is dry, everything is in great shape. But the 2 access areas, it's like pictures you've seen from prior engineering. You can grab the wood and pull it apart. And I think one contributing factor to that is someone at some point took it upon themselves to seal the top of the vents that were integral to Dr. Libby's ventilation system, where he would draw cool air from the lakeside, bring it under the floor into the crawl space, and have it travel up this north wall and exhaust at the top of the wall. So that, for I don't know how many years, has not been allowed to happen, and that moist air has just been trapped in that north wall with absolutely no place to go. Anyways, so on June 19th, we had a meeting between 5 of the parties that have been looking at this project. There was the engineer, Matt Bogle. There was Rick Geddes, who is the owner of a moving and insuring company. There's Aaron Sturgis, who is New Hampshire Preservation Timber. He's a contractor who has worked on the Libby twice. He's installed tension rods in the attic, and he also did some leveling of some of the piers in the basement. So he's very familiar with. So he was there, and he's. And then there was Frank LeMay, who is the owner of Milestone Construction. He's offered to do some costing for us on phase 2, which I'll explain a little bit later. And then the subcommittee members were there as well. The observations that everybody concurred when they looked at them was that the foundation in the areas that were exposed, at least, are perfectly intact, stable, and not moving. The sills, like I said earlier, are rotten, and it's an issue. We were happy. The area on the sloped ceiling, the reason that was opened is so that we could view the intersection of the top of the wall with the bottom of the rafters to see if there was any mold or rot there, if there was any structural disintegration or fracturing that had happened. And for the most part, that upper area is also quite healthy. There's a couple rafters that were rotted, but those were identified as being suspected to be part of a roof leak that was not tended to quite a while ago. So it's an old issue. The other thing that we did once we explored that is we opened up some of the areas that prior studies had opened up on those pilasters. And we saw all the rot that were in the pictures, but we dug a little deeper. We pulled away some of that rot and discovered that a lot of the rot that looked very terrible was actually some stick framing and some bracing for some of the accompanying structures, like the stucco. But behind all that were the actual 6x6 posts which are holding up this building. It's funny because prior reports have referred to these posts as being 8x10s or 8x8s. The reality is that they are all 6x6s. And there is rot there. and some of them have a fair amount of rot, but the engineers determined that they're actually straight. The very harrowing scene when we were all outside that last time, we saw this huge bowed column, and the impression we all had, including the engineer when he first looked at it, was these posts are in severe distress. But it's not true. What's happened is because of the rotted sill, the roof, the whole structure is pushing down on the wall, and those decorative pilasters bowed because of that weight. So the post could sink into the sill, but the pilaster was on top of that and had no place to go. So it actually formed like a bow and arrow, or a bow, with the string being the real structural column, but the superficial pilaster had this very disturbing looking bow to it. Anyways, I don't want to get into too much detail, but what you just received was a report from Aaron Sturgis, who has offered his services, and he's come up with a plan with the engineer. They've been collaborating on this since day one. Observations when we were there at the study was that there's a significant amount of space between the windows. The 6x6 takes up less than a third of the space. So if the pilaster, if the decorative trim is peeled off of each pilaster, there is enough room to add a bolster post, is what we call them. They're a structural post, right alongside it, and just do that one column after another as phase one to stabilize this building and avoid any future catastrophes with it collapsing. It's a temporary fix. It's good for about a year if you read his report. But it's probably the best scenario you could find for a simple way of stabilizing and supporting this building to avoid a traumatic collapse. So his plan basically involves removing those pilasters, the decorative trim. He's found a way to not have to disturb the frieze board, the dental work, the soffit, all that stuff that's at the top of the wall. He's going to be working from inside the attic space to be able to access that space. And he'll have a crew that will start from one end of the north wall to the other end and start and replace one post at a time. He's hoping that every post doesn't have to be bolstered or supported. He's hoping that maybe some posts can be just addressed at the bottom where the rod is, but the price he's giving you folks is for worst case scenario, that every post needs to be replaced.
So a question would be, when they're doing the posts, are they going to be replacing the sill too?
That will be in phase two.
Phase two.
They will be, I mean, they'll be cutting it out. But phase two, I'll explain briefly, but, so there are 14 columns, and he's given you a price of,
110.
why don't I have it?
110.
$10,552, I believe.
Yeah.
Or 110.
110,552.
Where's my accountant here?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, $110,532. So that's for phase one. It gets you a north wall that is now secure, will not collapse. But as he says in his report, it's good for about a year. It's the first step of doing a total repair, which is what phase two would be all about. Which would be, the building has settled because the sill's been rotting. So phase two, they will have to pick the building up a little bit and get that roof line straight, which should address some of the buckling that you're seeing on the roof. That'll be the time when all the rest of the wall gets taken apart. All the stucco, the windows will come out. All the plaster on the inside will have to come down, because the work in phase one is all happening from outside. We don't have to move the exhibits. We don't have to do a curtain wall. There's no, but it's a different story for phase two.
Phase 2 would be also correcting the ventilation issue?
Yes, I would hope, yes, one way or another. There are two problems with this building. Is the north wall and the mold, and then the other problem is the ventilation and the crawl space issues. And I'm going to be talking with other companies who are specialists in crawl space remediation and trying to think of something like a similar system to what they use with radon, where you produce negative pressure into a space which draws humidity out of the space. So there are things that I think can be done for a very economical way that will address at least some of the issues from that coming down there.
Any questions?
Go ahead if you want.
No, I'm still putting mine together.
So when you opened up the wall areas and you said it was dry, did anybody actually take scraping samples of the mold that really wasn't wet mold? It was actually spores that would be contained within the wall structure and in the building itself?
I didn't take any structure. I just did a visual inspection. It looked like an old wall that had been up for 100 years. I didn't see any, it's certainly nothing like what I saw on the north wall, which was black mold and white mold, just predominantly hanging onto any piece of wood that there was.
The reason that I say that is because if you have black mold in one area and you still have that same cavity that surrounds the rest of the building, there's a good likelihood that the rest of that is spread to the rest of the building. And so that's why I asked that question.
Right, well, there was a mold report done last year that you guys have access to. Yep. And they did not report anything like that. They talked about mold inside the museum on surfaces, but they didn't find any.
But they didn't go into the cavities.
They didn't go into the cavities.
They didn't excavate.
No. So the other question there is the letter from Mr. Sturgis.
Yes.
You didn't do a narrative on that tonight. And that's really why I thought we were here.
Sure. Well, I thought obviously I've missed something that you're looking for, but he addressed in his proposal, he addresses how he's going to attack the project, and that's bullet number 1 and number 2, and then he talks about how he's going to move down the line. John, is there something in particular that you?
So his letter here, the work ahead is the minimum that we can do to hold the building in stasis. Investigation this year reveals significant mold and water damage to the north wall interior wall cavity. The work is not a permanent repair, but is a part of a necessary work to save the structure. Includes opening north wall to actually conditions, therefore taking action to strengthen, bolster, and hold the building while planning for its future is completed. So basically, he's going in. It's where there's a phase 2. I think the people should realize that, you know, what we're doing is we're just stabilizing the building for $110,000 to prevent catastrophic failure.
Correct. Yep. That's phase 1.
That's what I just heard for the last 30 minutes or 20 minutes.
I'm sorry?
That's what I just heard. That's what he just explained, that it was a $110,000. He explained the width of the existing beams, that they're going to sister beside them, that it's $110,000, that it's a one-year fix, and that a phase 2 would be coming up later to repair everything.
Yeah, I mean, what we're really talking about is the north wall. We know we've got problems in the south wall. We've got windows that leak. So we don't, are you proposing that we go section of the building by section? Or do you think at some point we're going to have to do a major renovation to it?
nobody's opened up those walls. I know where you see the plasters falling off between some windows on the south wall. I've seen that. That's not unusual for plaster that's 100 years old.
But water is leaking there. That, it's not just falling
Okay.
off, there's water's leaking there, so,
I've not seen that. I've not asked anybody to I mean, I've crawled underneath, I've been underneath that section.
so I guess I'm saying we're now talking about the north wall. That's it at this
That's it.
point, but at some point, we're going to have to address the inside and the other walls where we know that they need some kind of work to them. So we're just starting, and this would have to be a very phased approach, is what you're presenting to us. Am I correct?
It needs to be, well, given what you've told us about funds, we're trying to address the most critical.
Sure.
Okay,
Area.
yeah. But I'm with John. I want the people to understand that this is just one small piece of a bigger picture.
And if I could, because I'm a little confused, I get that way. We embarked on this project, Secure the North Wall,
Right.
to avoid having to spend $170,000 to remove the collection and put it someplace. That was the purpose of stabilizing that north wall, period.
Well,
No, just if I could,
Okay, fine.
because I could be wrong, you know, and if I'm wrong, then we need to get together as, you know, trustees or select board and recalibrate. I was not aware that we're going to be systematically going around the building. What I'm of the mind of is we're trying to find a successor trustee. And it would seem to me that it would be great to inform a successor trustee all of the, you know, puts and takes that they have to deal with to go around the building. But, and maybe I didn't hear you correctly. I don't believe, at least me personally, that this board has said, we're going into a systematic, phased approach to rebuild the Libby. I haven't heard that.
I never said that,
Okay,
and
good.
I never planned to say
See,
that.
that's why I'm wrong. I'm glad. So we're thinking about spending $110,000 roughly. Jim, you got to look at this proposal. Have you just got it the other day? So I mean, we got to dig around in this a little bit. We're going to spend $110,000 to secure the building. That protects the exhibits.
Yeah.
Although Mr. Thurston is suggesting we need to figure out whether we got any mold in there.
So,
But that's about where and then we need to hear from folks as to what we're doing with successor trustees.
Well, you're going to have a hard time, I would think, finding a successor trustee to accept the building who's got to...
Well, we have to do a report to the Attorney General. We got to tell them something.
Well,
Right?
I mean,
We got to tell them something.
we're helping you with part of this report by stabilizing the critical building section.
I'd like
Mr. Thurston, go ahead.
So I asked Jim, we had 90 days to come up with a plan.
Right.
And he gave me the date of July 21st. I read the Sturgis report, and there was one particular instance, and I'll read it to you. There are no guarantees that this work will allow the building to survive indefinitely. This stabilization is designed to address critical life safety issues and stabilize the building so that the immediate planning and action can take place to save this historic landmark structure. That's what was written by Mr. Sturgis.
Sure.
And go ahead, Linda.
My feeling is that we did ask them to stabilize the building.
Correct.
That's what they did.
Correct.
I think what we're trying to do, okay, we do this. Where is that in a longer range plan, which is what I'm in, which is what we're going to have to give to the Attorney General.
That's right.
So this is a step that we're stabilizing it, but we still have to decide, are we going forward, that the public understands that it's just a stabilization, and we still have a lot of questions. You've done a lot of work to get us to this point.
So there was a two-point purpose to this. One was to stop an imminent collapse, and two was to protect the collection. We were either going to protect the collection by pulling it out, or we were going to fix the building, or both, whichever we could do for the best value. So we're finding out now that we can keep the building together for less money than it would have cost to pull out the artifacts. And if we had just pulled out the artifacts and not done anything to stabilize the building could have collapsed. So we're spending the least amount of money possible. And by the way, it's money that was put aside for the purpose of maintaining the Libby building. That's the only reason that money exists, and it can't be used for anything else.
It can be maintaining, repair, or expansion. There were, so
Yeah,
those three things
and
were there.
I have a dear friend of mine, Dave Seamus, who has been doing period renovations on historic houses in Portsmouth for about 50 years. And when he opens up buildings, and I've had long conversations with him about this, you can open up a building, you can have one wall decayed, and you can have the rest of the structure in perfect fine shape. You can open up a building and all walls can be in bad shape. It's speculation to say that we have mold everywhere or rot everywhere until we actually look.
I have one more, Paul.
John?
So again, the initial part of that statement, there are no guarantees that this work will allow the building to survive indefinitely.
Well, because he's limited his study to the north wall, so how he couldn't extend his support for the other three walls if he hasn't been able to look at them.
And that's a good point.
Sounds like
That's kind of where I'm going. I think the people that are sitting home have to understand that we, like Linda said, we're doing this part, we're going to move on to another part, then we're going to move on to another part. I mean, what I'm seeing here is, you know, it's not guaranteed that this building is even survivable.
Well, of course it is.
That's
Well,
not,
I mean, it's
I just read his statement. That was Mr. Sturgis's statement.
because
He wrote
because you can never guarantee something is going to fall. Survive.
I'm just reading his statement. He's the builder. He's the guy
understand.
that's
Well,
going to
if you
open up the
read the
wall.
Bible, you can support any argument you want, but reality is this is a critical structural defect that needs to be addressed. And you guys can discuss it. Obviously, you need to discuss it, but be aware that come winter time, if you haven't addressed the stabilization, you're going to lose the building.
Yeah.
So again, I'm concerned about the collection that's in there if we're in there cutting and doing dust and.
No,
and,
I'm sorry. I thought I said all work for phase one will be done from the outside. There is no need to
You
move.
did say
There is
that.
no need to move the collection. There's no need to do any dust walls. Everything happens
Okay.
outside of the building.
Dave, personally, I think you guys are doing the right things. I mean, to sit around and admire how bad the building was and let it just topple would have been dumb. So I think you're doing the right stuff. At least me personally, as I expect, there's a tendency to say, I need to know more before I can do it. I need to know more. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create an environment where someone's going to step forward and say, I think I got enough information. I want to be a successor. I want to take over the responsibility of this facility, and I would like to go with them as a qualified operator to the Attorney General's office and say, there they are.
Well, then hire somebody to study the other three walls. That's the only way you're going to.
Hang on a second. Let me finish. So that has always in my mind, been the objective. Nothing else. That's always in my mind been all this other stuff, importantly, is to get us to the objective. So I'm keen to wanting to hear, Maggie, I know you've been working on that side of the beat. Why don't you tell us where we are? Dave, thank you for this.
This way down.
It's what you feel.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Maggie Steer, Heritage Commission Ad Hoc Committee. So we gave you a report in your packets that said the Friends of the Libby Museum are the obvious successor trustee. We also sent a copy of that report to them, and they wanted us to make two corrections. One was to correct our reference to them being semi-defunct, which is what they told us last December. Their term was semi-dormant,
And they wanted to clarify that they're waiting for a plan from the town to reopen the museum before resuming their fundraising and program support. So we've got sort of a chicken or the egg thing. We've been trying to work on a plan on behalf of the town that would find a successor trustee. We've invited the Friends to work together with us because they have prior knowledge, they have considerable fundraising capacity, and they've solicited memberships and been the face of the museum for years. And they have close to $400,000 or $500,000 in their accounts, more than the town's reserves. So our hope was that obviously we could work with them, bolster them, provide additional expertise, and with their existing nonprofit, that would be the most logical way to go. We have invited them to work with us, and they have said they haven't decided yet whether they want to step up and be the operator of the museum or if they'd like to just remain in their current capacity as an independent nonprofit. They will begin to discuss their options at their July 12th board meeting. We would love to do a joint forum with them for the public. I think it's counterproductive to have them hold their public meeting of their membership and ask those questions, and then for us to do the same. But we had talked about doing that sometime in July. I don't think it's going to happen in July, but it would be wonderful if it could happen in August. So we really look forward to working with them and hope that they will want to work with us. Even if they don't end up wanting to be the successor trustees, a plan to form a new nonprofit or partner with an existing nonprofit still would benefit greatly from the information and the records they have for their donors and for all the work that they've been doing in terms of program support. So as we explore a new plan for the museum, I have some questions for you. What can you or Jim Pinio tell us about the information that curator, director Lena Heinrichs has assembled so far this summer about the collection's condition, value, and provenance, or who donated it? Where did it come from? Have you had any report yet from Lena on her work?
We have signed a contract with a firm to come in and conduct an assessment of the collection for determining valuation of which is directed by the Attorney General's office.
Okay, can you tell us how much that is? We know how much the town has set aside for the Libby Museum, and we're hoping that money can go as far as possible.
It's not a tremendous amount of money. I can pull that up.
I think it was only 6 or 8 or 12,000.
It's you don't have to worry about running out of money if that's the issue.
What, 12,000?
Something like that.
Is that the guess? Okay.
I can't remember. I remember.
It's like 6.
Yeah, it was 6, or it was not a heck of a lot.
Okay. By what date is the Attorney General's office in Concord expecting a plan for new ownership and museum operation from the town? I think you said July 21st.
Correct.
And what happens if that plan is not forthcoming by July 21st? Is there room for any negotiation with them and discussion, bringing all the parties together, you, the trustees, the Heritage Commission, and the Friends of the Libby? Because that really is what we need to do. We all need to sit down and hash out a plan.
I believe and I've been saying this, I believe the Attorney General should be part of that meeting too.
Yes, that would be fine if they want to. I have another question. Has the Attorney General, have you proposed to the Attorney General already a plan to remove and rehome the collections elsewhere and demolish the building? Have you run that past them?
No.
Okay. Have they indicated they would accept subdivision of the property so that the town retains control over the waterfront and the museum is owned separately? Have you floated that idea?
I can only speak for myself. I'm not aware that our counsel, who has been the lead person speaking with the Attorney General, their office, Charitable Trust Unit, has had those conversations. I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
I'm not aware of us floating any soft ideas to anybody. That's, if that's going on, that, personal opinion, that's us. You know, that's leading up to what you might consider to be a term sheet. But I personally am not aware of us going to the Attorney General episodically and saying, hey, what if we did A or B or C or D? I think that's bad. I think that's bad form.
Well, I know you've had some
Plus it
conversations
really
with
gets us in
them.
a whole bunch of hot water with 91A stuff. So I'm not aware of it. Are we, Jim? So we're collectively clueless on that one.
Okay, great.
From the last couple meetings that I remember we had with the Attorney General's office, the discussion was just about, as trustees, what our responsibilities were. Me personally, I have contacted probably a dozen museums in the Northeast to find out if anybody would even consider having us be one of their satellite facilities.
Yep.
And I didn't get any takers for that.
Right. Not
So-
surprisingly, Brian.
Correct. So,
Running a small museum is a big undertaking.
Yeah.
We, as the Heritage Commission, want to see the building saved, and we feel that the Libby Museum is a great asset to the town, and hope that you, as trustees, agree with that. So that's the direction we're heading. But we are also getting in deep and getting a little bit frustrated with the slow progress of this, given that that July 21st deadline is looming. And so anything you can do to help us would be wonderful. And I do have one suggestion, that you ask the Friends of the Libby Museum to come in and report to you as well, because they're holding money more money than the town has at this point. They're perceived by many people as the face of the museum, have been the only, they have been a private entity raising money on behalf of the museum without any accountability whatsoever to you as Libby trustees. Not only should they be accountable to you as trustees, but to the townspeople, because this is a town asset. And they are discussing right now their own plans for what they would require to take over the museum. And that may mean that the Attorney General gets 2 plans. And I would love to avoid that if we could, and work together. So whatever you can do to help facilitate that would be much appreciated.
I think we, Linda, you want to speak?
I just want to ask Jim a question. Did the Attorney General also ask the Friends of the Libby to provide them with information? I think they did.
I think there was dialogue between the AG's office and the Libby, but I don't know what that dialogue was.
From what we understand, they also have to file a report.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting to, that the two of us have to file, and I think part of it is because they have that amount of money. They already have a vested interest with some funds for how this goes forward.
Exactly.
I just want to
But
clarify
their funds
that.
are their funds. They're not your funds.
I understand that, but the Attorney General wants them in because they have funds that are designated for the Libby, and I want people to understand that the Attorney General has asked both entities. So there are going to be 2 different reports going in.
And I believe that as trustees of the museum, we have to do 2 things. We have to have a set of binoculars on that's looking way down the road for a potential group to take over the museum and relieve us of our duties as trustees. But we have a first duty, which is to maintain the building and the collection inside of it, because that is our fiduciary duty, whether we like the Libby or not, and whether some people think that the building should just be knocked down or not. That is not within our purview. That is not our responsibility. We're not legally allowed to do that. We have to do our fiduciary responsibility and take care of the building the best we can. That's it.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
anybody-
I have one other question.
One other question.
Has to do with the binoculars, and look further down the road to finding someone to take over the museum. We've just heard that you want a plan from us by July 21st. Brian's thing is much more realistic. We can hypothesize. We can say, here's what it would take to form a new nonprofit, but I just want you to know that it's going to be a matter of years. And I don't know if the transition can be effected gradually over those years. That's my most viable option, is that it be a transition where the town continues to contribute to the support of the museum while a new nonprofit builds its identity and keeps going until they're ready to take it over.
Linda?
Yeah, and I think I gave you my folder that came from the Friends. They had put that together
Right.
for the initial, if that project had gone through, and I think it was
Yeah.
a 6 or 7 year process for them to raise, and so that
Exactly.
is what it's going to take
Right.
to put this together. So we really have a boilerplate if we take what they did in the past on how that could work.
Exactly. And to fix this museum may be a 3 to 5 year process, John, to your concern. This is the way historic preservation projects are done. You raise some money, you get phase 1 done. You do an assessment for phase 2, you raise some more money, you get that done. You do the third thing. It's a 112-year-old building that had a very flawed airflow design. That can be corrected, but it is going to take some money. It would take some money to build a big addition. It would take some money to tear the building down and rebuild it. The only thing that wouldn't take money is to tear it down entirely, and I just don't believe that the town would allow that loss, nor the Attorney General, without a concerted effort to revive that museum and have it continue and to serve the town.
Until we exhaust all available funds and all available avenues to fix the building, we are responsible to fix the building.
Well, we're trying to help
that's
you,
it.
Brian.
Yeah.
Maggie, you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
Last words. John?
So what we know about the building is we have a couple different viewpoints. We were waiting for you guys to come up with some numbers. We listened to the public when they voted and voted down money. So we're sitting here saying, okay, well, if they don't want to give us any more money, we need to know how much it's going to cost. We need to know what the building structure is. We know the building was neglected. The town fiduciaries neglected the building. It's when you neglect something, it costs twice as much to bring it back. Other than your other option is to rebuild a new building that is safe, meets all the codes, and is viable for the future and the next 100 years. When you take an old building, you'll never get it back to a point where you can say it's solvent. You'll always be chasing the building around. When one thing is off over here, it's off over there, it's off over there, it's off on 4 parts of the building.
There's a
So
third
just
option.
listen for 1 second.
Okay.
I got. What I'm saying is there's a couple different options, and we haven't discussed any of the options, but I wouldn't mind sitting down and having a war room discussion with the rest of the board to say, what do you want to do here? Because I think it's about time.
Let me just say there is a third option, which is to try to get private money and affect that transfer so that the town is not on the hook for fixing the building entirely. And that's the direction that I'm going in this plan.
Two words,
Let it happen
Paul.
privately.
Brian has 2 words.
2 words. Pickering House.
Well, I was going to say town hall,
Correct.
Town Hall,
Town
Pickering
hall.
House.
I was going to say, you're done.
but that was
So you can fix old buildings and make them viable and functional.
I'll use one word, millions.
It doesn't have to be. That's the thing. And the
ahead.
value of
Sometimes
this
you have to do
historic
that.
building is
I heard
really,
you.
I mean, that's foremost in our minds.
Isn't it on?
a new building if we can
Isn't
save the old.
isn't it on the National Historic Register?
Yes.
Let's
Oh,
have
it's
a-
on the
let's-
National Historic
let's have a
Register.
TV timeout here. This was a great conversation. I'd like to just summarize by saying, there's some good news here. We got somebody who's worried about getting the building fixed up. We got people that are worried about making sure that we honor our fiduciary responsibilities, and you're right, Brian, we should and we must. There's no question about that. We're watching the budget, so that was good. How much more, that was good. I don't think we're doing enough, and it's not because of effort. I think we need to do, Maggie's thought is we need to get in a room with all interested parties and just thrash at this thing, because there's money on the table. there's precedent that I think student body Wright, my colleague, did a couple of years ago when we tried to do something together with the Friends. And so, what I'm hearing is, out there in the cloud, I see all these words, and I start thinking term sheet. That's how you energize a relationship. We're not going to have a plan, in my view, by the 21st of July. We're going to have a progress report. That's what I think we're going to do. If we think we're going to have a plan between now and 21 July and kind of pitch what we haven't been doing for the past 8 years, we're nuts. So I think we'll have a progress report. But I think we have people who want to help. And we just got to keep the energy level focused on saving the Libby. And leave it there. Okay?
Can I ask a couple points of clarification, Paul?
Sure.
Just a couple items that I need to have clarified in this. Number one, are you expecting the board to engage in this document with Aaron Sturgis from Preservation Timber Framing now?
So I'll give you my opinion, and I'd like the board to weigh in. I think this is I'd like to hear your recommendation as to what we should do here. I read this thing, and I can't figure out whether I want to sign the guy up or not.
When could he start work?
He knows the deadline, that he needs to have his work completed before snow flies next year.
My point.
And he said he's made himself, he will be available to complete the work before the threat of snow next year.
So if we go to the Attorney General on the 21st of July with a report from Mr. Sturgis with a plan to start stabilization of the back wall, we have the funds to do that. I think the Attorney General is not going to say, your plan isn't in, you're all going to be lynched. I think the Attorney General is going to say, you're going in the right direction. You're now taking care of the building. You have a process going, as Paul said. You're starting a process towards construction, and I think they would then say, good job, let us know what piece 2 is going to be.
Look forward to the next one. But Mr. Duchesne, the town manager asked a question. What do you want him to do with this document? We owe him an answer, or at least some guidance. What do you want him to do with the document?
Well, the document is not in a contract, right?
It's not a contract yet.
No, it's not a contract.
I think he was basically his perspective on what he can do.
Yeah, and
I guess he prepared this specifically because I asked him to have something for us for this meeting.
Okay, thanks,
okay,
Dave.
so that's where I am with Paul. I don't have something that's actionable. I think that's where the town manager is. We need and that may get your dates.
Correct.
And the other thing that's suggested here by Brian is we may want to put this in our plan to the Attorney General's office and see how they respond. But we as a board really haven't had a chance to talk about this, and we need to meet and talk about what we're going to send on July 21st. So at some point we need another meeting. I've asked Jim too. I know when that date was coming. I've been concerned about it. So I think there is a need for us to spend some time trying to get that.
And we have to do it so that there's enough time that Mr. Sturgis can write up a contract before the 21st in order to get something to the Attorney General's that shows good faith that we are trying to do something, not neglect our fiduciary duty. Because we have a responsibility. If board members don't want to be responsible for the Libby Museum and it's part of their duty, they can either step out of meetings and not show up, or they can just resign as a select board member.
Brian, I don't see why you're going there. I think we had a very good ask from the town manager. I think we're all working hard to come up with a solution. Yep. I think we would like to move forward on this, but I think we need a contract if we're going to go forward with it. That was the answer I was getting it. I didn't hear anybody say they didn't want to do their fiduciary responsibility. I didn't hear it.
There's just a lot of energy around this. So Jim, you asked the question, and one answer is, can we get this thing to a contract? Does that help you?
Yep, and I'd just like to follow up. Does he have a time frame in the amount of weeks it's going to take him to do this work?
Not that he's told me.
Okay. And just so that I'm crystal clear on this, if I'm understanding this document correctly,
Right.
the work he is going to do is temporary.
Correct.
Correct.
Well, it's temporary.
I thought the premise of why we were going this route was to not recreate work, and the work that was going to be done was part of the final solution to stabilize the north wall.
I think he's
This is
right.
very similar to what
By
we
the way-
first started.
I think Jim's right.
I think so, he's
I
right.
think he's right. That was to be, you fix that wall. So I think, Jim, and I don't know where you want to go with this.
I just want clarification that this is temporary and not permanent.
Correct. Just as when we first initiated conversations with H.L. Turner, the
Correct, and we went away from them because you guys felt that we could do a permanent solution in lieu of a temporary solution,
This is
I'm okay with. I just want to be clear about it.
so maybe I've been phrasing it wrong. There is a permanent solution that involves two steps. Step one, which is bracing the building so it doesn't fall while we're repairing it. And we've asked for, so we knew we didn't have money for phase two, so we asked for a plan that would work for a while we continue trying to raise funds.
And the last item I would just like to state, the next to last closing paragraph in here indicates that they're still concerned that there could be significant rot that could compromise stabilization of the building, and if they find that, they'll stop work immediately.
That's kind of boilerplate for every contract you see, right, Jim? I mean, you can't see hidden conditions all the time, but I have his word, and you can get it in writing, that when he estimated this job, that $110,000 is worst case scenario. He's hoping to come in with a final bill for less than that, but he's assuming all 14 posts are bad and need to be bolstered.
Okay, thank you.
So, thank you for that. What you heard our town manager do is what we want him to do, and that is to ensure that we mitigate risk. Boilerplate notwithstanding, he gets paid to ask the risk question. So, but thank you. It was a good conversation, all right? Okey doke.
Would he be able to give us a estimate for phase two, but not until phase one is done? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Are we now done with our business as Libby trustees?
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to come out of the Libby trustees meeting.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? We're coming out of the Libby
Aye.
trustees. Do we need to, as select board members, do we need to memorialize any of this, or is it okay if we just copy all this over?
Yeah, and I think that we would like Jim to take a look at this, and that we set a date to have a conversation about the report, and that will help.
I think that's right. So, yeah.
my only
so
thing
can we post up a time where we can get together and talk for an hour? That makes sense? We just talk about the Libby and the report that we plan to get off to the Attorney General's office. And by the way, I don't think there's anything sacrosanct on the 21st, right? No, nobody said if you don't do it on the 21st, the world
No,
comes to an end.
legal has been in regular contact with the AG's office. I guess my question for you is, would you like to have this as a select board meeting, or would you like to have it as a non-meeting with legal present to discuss the matter where he's going to be the one communicating with the AG's office?
Members?
I would like a July 9th meeting with the AG, the Friends of the Libby, and the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen, and our attorney.
That's a bid.
It's a big lift, but that would be great.
AG's office said that they will not meet until after the date of the 21st, if I remember.
Not until after the 21st.
Yeah, they were very clear on that. I would like us to go in and have some time to talk to town attorney in a non-meeting, and then come out into a selectmen's work session, because I think it needs to be out in public.
Thurston?
I would like us to have a clear objective in a short window of objectives and not be stretching the truth here to say we're going to be doing something else. I want to keep this, like Jim said, a temporary fix. Let's discuss the temporary fix. Where are we after the temporary fix is not even being discussed yet?
So just to push back a little bit, the question is, but I'd like to get a response if you can. Do you want to have a non-meeting with council
Then go into
to have a conversation of what we talked to the Attorney General about, or you want to ditch that and have a different conversation?
I would have a meeting with council.
Okay. So I think, unless I misunderstand, I think, and I agree with that we should have a non-meeting with council, figure out what we want to say, and then come out into a select board meeting.
That's what I'd like us to be.
Anybody heartburn on that? The only difficulty
At
for
our
this...
select board meeting, should we have the Friends of the Libby with us?
Yeah, maybe.
I think we invite, if we want to
invite 'em.
invite them.
The only different, so it would have to, it can't be between now and the 15th, unless you all want to do this without me. But I'm out of here this week till at least the 15th. Okay. Thank you again. Appreciate that. All right, next item on the agenda, new business, commercial vessel landing permit.
Isaac McKenzie, U.S. Mailboat.
Isaac, before you start, I owe you an apology. I asked you last week if you needed an inspection plate. You said you didn't, and I questioned your veracity.
Did you go talk to the
No,
Marine
I
Patrol?
looked it up.
Oh, okay.
I went and looked it up. So
Yeah, they don't
I
have, unless it's inland waters that borders
under
Canada
15,
and
under
U.S.
15
yeah.
feet or something.
Yeah.
But you do need a capacity point, that's all. So, my bad, please continue.
I don't know if you guys need anything else from me. We should be squared away. Talk to Amy, hopefully. Fingers crossed. I got everything you guys need. I would like to add a comment about the Libby Museum, though. So some of the history we actually give on the mailboat is, a good portion of the lumber that was used to build the Libby Museum came off of Rattlesnake Island, which Dr. Libby used to own. So,
Thank you.
just a little history there.
We like that. I thought you were going to say something else. Okay, so we have a commercial landing permit. Amy did ask you to update things because it was a different vessel length and whatever. So it is.
You guys should have a brand new current policy.
We do.
Yeah.
We do.
Do I have a motion, please?
Yes, I will move that we grant a commercial vehicle landing permit to the mailboat / Blue Ghost 3 for 2025.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank
See ya.
you.
Okay. Okay, the next item on our agenda is Town Beach Testing Protocol, Parks and Recs. Christine Collins.
Thank you, Christine Collins, Parks and Rec Director. So I just wanted to have it in writing, the whole protocol that we do. It's nothing new, but I think there was a lot of questions I was seeing from the public, and there was a little changing with the state, so I thought we'd just put it on paper. I want us all to see if this is what we want to do, and then I want to actually create a spot on our website that says beaches that will have this protocol in it. This actually came about because Cary Beach was tested. So I'm just going to give you a little history. I've been with the town for about 17 years. When I first started, the state was testing the waters. So it was a program they did. It was called Healthy Beaches. They went around to the local beaches and they tested it, and then they would put it on the Healthy Swimmers map. COVID came. Per usual, COVID. And they didn't have the manpower to test the beaches. So our rec department ended up taking it over. Since then, we've actually partnered with our water department because they were already testing different facilities. And so they took it on because that's in their expertise. So they actually test our beaches for us. We follow the same protocol as the state. So it's monthly testing. So from Memorial Day through the end of August. We do monthly testing. They test 3 spots, so it's left, center, right for each beach. There's a window of time you have to get it to the lab. So each beach has 3 tests in it per test. And then if it comes back not up to par, then we go back and retest that beach. And until we get that testing back, we have to post a caution for everyone. So I know that there was a lot of issues because people are looking at that healthy swimmers map, and when this first happened, it wasn't on there. The state has changed its protocol with putting stuff on their map. We actually, Mr. Pinio was able to talk to them, and we're going to be part of a pilot program. So we are still testing our beaches, so it's in-house where we do it ourselves. However, I send the report to the state, and then the state will update the healthy swimmers map. We also, for us, we do a Facebook post, we pin it to the top of the page, that will say that. We put it on the town website on the alerts, or the news, it's the alerts. This time when it happened, after it was cleared, we took it away, but I did talk to Amy, we're gonna have a different protocol, so it's there, we just update that it has been cleared. And then we'll keep it in a folder, just because people, if it goes missing, then nobody knows, is it cleared, is it not cleared? So we decided we're gonna work together on that. So just so you know, we are testing for E. coli. Cyanobacteria is a different animal, we're not doing that. The state did come out with signs, so we are keeping all the signs updated down there. So each of the beaches that we are in charge of, Brewster, Albee, and Cary, will have those cyanobacteria signs. I did receive a couple of more signs today. I'm putting them down by our boat launches. They wanted me to put them down, so I'm gonna take care of those tomorrow morning. And then if we don't have any sign, unless there is advisory, and then we will post a sign. So a lot of people are asking questions if they didn't see on the healthy swimmers map. So some of the glitches that could happen, what happened this time, is the test came back late Friday afternoon. I had sent the email. By the time it got there, they were already out of the office. When we have a test come back on a Friday, we can't retest until a Monday because the labs don't do that. Our people don't work on the weekends. So it requires a Monday testing, and then we wait till it comes back. The turnaround ended up being only 1 day this time, so it seems like that's, well. A test that would be a not approved. So for the test, if 2 or more samples from the same beach exceed the standard of 88 counts of E. coli per 100 milliliters of water, an advisory would be issued, or if 1 sample exceeds 158 counts of E. coli per 100 milliliters of water. And I will caution everyone, we say the beaches are cleared or they're safe for swimming. Just be advised that it's not done every day, and it is a body of water that has organisms in it, and if you are swallowing that water or you have an open wound, it could affect you differently than others, so you just want to be safe. And that's it.
Board members, questions?
So the other day you had a alert. And the alert cleared pretty quick. Do we have a hypothesis on what came about, or was there a certain condition, or was there a group or something that may have been in the area, or?
So for that one, it was just one of them was extremely high. To be honest, it could be a duck swam by and ended up going to the bathroom there. You know, we don't know. And that was on Thursday we tested that. If you were over at Cary Beach on Friday, I couldn't even stand without holding on to something because the wind was just blowing. So, but we had to wait till we got that test back on Monday.
So the wind basically cleared everything up because
it could have cleared it up,
Yeah.
I mean, it's moving water, and like I said, there's organisms in it, so it's hard to say. I did see people were asking me whether it was human or animal. That's not denoted in, all it says is it has high bacteria. It doesn't tell me which specific.
If I could, just for clarity, you're not testing for human or animal, you're just testing for E. coli, period. That is an incremental test, and that's not what you're funded to do.
Right,
Okay,
correct.
thank you. Other board members?
Yeah, I'm really pleased. I think this is very well done. It also relates to the cyanobacteria. There's one little piece there, and I think it's good that we have this policy.
Yeah. So I will say, as somebody said, should we believe Parks and Rec or should we believe the state? You want to believe both. However, because the state is getting secondhand information from us, and like I said, it was a Friday afternoon, they didn't get it up in time. If there's a sign at the beach, we're on top of removing it or posting it. So we're not waiting. So Parks and Rec is telling you the truth.
You're giving us the most up-to-date information.
Correct.
This is like late-breaking news.
Yep.
And you're not going to get your answers on Facebook unless we have posted it. Call the office. We have email. Call the office. Stop in. We'd love to see you. While I have you, beach passes and dump stickers need to be shown at the beach. We started this week with our staff on duty, and we had some very angry people, but please just help us. We're following a protocol, and don't be mean to my staff. If you have a problem, just call my office and we'll have a chat.
Anybody else? I have an observation, and first of all, thank you. I agree with Linda. This is pretty world-class stuff. So the ambition is to get the information out faster over time. That's really the ambition, right?
Correct.
And you'll seek all kinds of fun ways to do that.
Yes.
And what about TV? I mean, is there any, we get it out on, is TV a place to, kind of run something under Wolfeboro TV?
I could check on that. I absolutely
Something to think
could.
about.
I do know someone came to the beach today and said they Googled it, and when it showed up, it said it had a little advisory that said Cary Beach, blah, blah, blah. We found out, like with Google, if you post something on the web, it is gonna show up even if you removed it. So there was no date. The woman said she saw no date, and that's right, because it had already been removed.
It's in your cache.
So you don't want to just go to Google. You want to go to a specific site. So Wolfeboro Parks and Rec, that's where you want to go. The town of Wolfeboro, that's where you want to go. That's where you're going to see that information. Google sometimes is not your friend.
So most of the time when our meetings are up, they're on YouTube.
Right.
So YouTube to me would be the fastest,
Whatever.
where it could be.
But TV, TV.
I'll
simulcasts.
investigate that as well.
Yeah, okay. Anybody else? Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the sidewalk ordinance. I believe, Mr. Duché, you have the floor on this.
Yeah, I'm not supposed to, but I do now.
You want somebody else to have the floor?
No, but the gentleman who was the chair, I guess, couldn't make it this evening. So we took all the recommendations from the business community, from the citizens. We did surveys. We had our initial ordinance that came through for public input and for a public hearing. And we went back as a committee and we changed some of the wording and made it a more user-friendly ordinance. The most recent and correct one is the one that Amy gave us last in the packet. There were a few corrections. One says, and must not infringe on the town's minimum standard of 50 inches, and in Amy's package, it says the minimum standard walking space of 50 inches. So just to clarify a little bit.
Brian, if I could, I apologize for interrupting. So late-breaking news today, we received a package from Michael Bilodeau and
Correct.
a letter.
Yep.
And so it came in literally as I was coming up here. So I've got this letter in this package, and does this letter in this package relate to this other document? Or
So
the
the only difference between the two documents that I see is on 1/40/17, the one that was submitted, the last sentence says, dirty dishware, comma, and must not infringe on the town's minimum standard of 50 inches. Mr. Bilodeau made a slight, what he considers a correction, and it says, must not, all objects placed must not infringe on the town's minimum standard walking space of 50 inches. I'm okay with either of them. That is the only real difference I see between the two. He did the same thing on 140, No, he didn't do it on 14018. Ours on 14018, the first one that came in says, the sign cannot obstruct pedestrian or vehicle traffic, including the 50-inch minimum required walking space. So what I would do is probably take the one that is in our packet and change and must not infringe on the town's minimum standard of 50 inches of walking space at the end so that it mirrors the one underneath, and that takes everything into account Mr. Bilodeau put in, plus what was done at our last meeting as a committee. And I think that we would be okay with that.
Can I ask a question?
If everybody's all right with it.
Would you be okay with adding walking width?
Yeah, you can do width. Width is fine.
Width is fine.
Instead of space.
Any other questions? I have a question, Brian. Thanks for putting this together. I presume no matter what we do here, you'll give us an updated document reflecting.
Yeah. Well, I think Jim will you put that change of walking width in and do the final
Yeah,
copy?
I noted it there. I can take care of that for
And
you.
is the town's minimum standard 50 inches?
Based on 14014, it is.
This is a change to our ordinance. It came to a public hearing. We had a permit in it. We got feedback that the business community, it was just one more hoop that we were trying to get them to go through. We removed that and came back down to the 50 inches. This will need to go back out to a public hearing.
Yeah.
Correct.
This is just whether we as a board are okay with the wording.
And I'm not poking, I'm just trying to catch up on this, because it's 36, isn't it?
That is what we have right now,
It's
Yes.
36, and 36 is the ADA
minimum.
And
Minimum.
so
48 is their
is
maximum.
their max. And so
Yeah.
this was moved to 50,
Correct.
and the justification of going to 50 was,
That the 50-inch measurement gives enough room for two people to walk side by side, two people to pass each other without, if you walk off of a curbing onto a state road, you're actually breaking state RSA. And
not only that, you might be breaking away.
yeah, and we did measurements, kind of an average person and a stroller, or an average person holding a little one's hand, came out to about 50 inches.
Okay. Can I ask a couple more?
Yeah.
So, and this is, I tried to find, because I think in the first tranche we went through, this was going to be limited to the downtown area, but I couldn't find the reference to that. So is this all sidewalks everywhere on the Wolfeboro planet? I think you limited yourself at the beginning, but now it's not.
Yeah, I believe it would be any
sidewalk.
Public sidewalk. Yeah.
Any sidewalk anywhere in this town.
Correct.
Okay.
And what, I actually went around and measured all the sidewalks in town. Yes, it took me a long time.
In the downtown, but did you do the one that goes out South Wolfboro?
Yeah.
You did?
Well, I measured any one where there could be a reason to put up a sign or something that could impede on the sidewalk. I didn't go to the sidewalk, the tar one that's in front of the residential homes on South Wolfboro, because I don't think anybody's going to go out there and put up a sandwich board.
But, okay, so the next question is,
Okay.
how much of this 50 is on us versus how much of this 50 is on, because I remember a member of the public came forward and said we ought to be looking at cars pulling into parkings and they're breaking the ordinance. Are we going to be asking the police department to go in and put a ticket on somebody's car because the bumper of the Escalade is now in the sidewalk as opposed to being out of the public thoroughfare?
So we had that discussion with our chief of police, and the chief of police actually stated to us that cars impeding into the sidewalk too much with an overhang, or of course, putting their wheel up on,
That would be bad.
yes, is actually considered a ticketable offense. So that's a whole different ballgame that goes to the police department, has nothing to do with our sidewalk ordinance.
Okay? And then how many of the 50-inch people in this town are right now per se violators?
Probably right now, because there has been this discussion, most of them have now put their stuff into a position where there is at least 50 inches. And I measured and made sure that any business that wanted to put something up had 50 inches, and any place where the sidewalk is really narrow, it's at least 50 inches wide. I didn't make anything that was not feasible and viable.
I think the tables and chairs have gone back. We still have problems with people pulling out a chair, putting them on the outside that interferes with the sidewalk. But our biggest problem is we have a couple of A-frame signs that end up in the middle of the sidewalk. And Jim's gotten a few pictures. And that's what we're trying. We're trying to get everything back so we maintain the walkable space. And when we did a survey, that was the one comment from people: I want to be able to walk on the sidewalk and to have enough room. So I think this does it. I think the 50 inches were 2 inches more, but if that bumper's coming on a little bit, you're still going to have that 48 for
I think it's
ADA.
3. We have a problem with 3 areas in town.
Okay? Mr. Thurston?
So the walking handicap area heading into Cape Park from the parking lot. I saw a sandwich board in the middle of that one the other day.
That was one of my pictures.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we have another up by the old Moods building across from the post office where there's chairs and so forth there. That I don't know how wide our sidewalk is there, but does that fall into this discussion, how they get their chairs to put them out there, or does it just happen, or as long as they maintain the 50 inches, we're not going to say anything, or?
Correct. Yeah, because the original ordinance was much more stringent. It was a permit required. There was, you had to list what was going to be on the sidewalk, so on and so on and so on. But the business community came out and spoke and said that they are struggling with all the different types of constraints on their businesses that make things difficult. And so we cut it back so that there was no permit, there was no permit fee. There's just an ordinance that basically asks, keep the sidewalk open for the individuals walking down the street. Mr. Thurston, I have a question for you. The handicap ramp that goes down into Cape Park, how wide is that? Just curious. I never measured that one.
That's 5 feet wide. That's 36. That's 5 feet wide.
It's 5 feet wide,
Yeah.
which is 60 inches, so that makes it by 10. So that handicap ramp, that shows us that that being that wide is ideal, because somebody can go down with a wheelchair, and somebody, if they need to, with a cane, can walk up the other direction, and you're not having something where people can't fit. It doesn't become a single file lane.
Ms. Murray?
Yes, the other thing we did is we made sure we put a date on when they could be on the sidewalk and when they had to be put away, because so when we're plowing, we don't have a bunch of stuff on the sidewalk.
Yep.
That was the other thing, and that's in 14016.
So the ask here is you want to move this to another public hearing?
I have one more
Oh,
question.
I'm sorry, Mr. Thurston.
So the fine is $1 per day for non-compliance. That's on 140-9. Is that, I mean, what's the deterrent?
It's on the back here.
No, that's for mailboxes. That's another.
Yeah, you got to be in the sidewalk section.
Yeah. That's numbering requirement for mailboxes.
So what's the fine for impeding the 50 inches? I'm
Okay,
sorry.
on 14019.
B.
$100.
Warning and then $100.
A warning, then $100?
And why 100? Because guess what? We've been instructed, we can only charge 100. That's the most we're allowed to by state RSA.
John, did you get your question?
I did, thank you.
Okay. And so this comes out of your committee supporting?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And so the ask is what?
To have the board accept the verbiage as it is and move it to a public hearing.
Is that a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any more conversation? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I might have to abstain again because I presented it, so
I think
it's okay.
Well,
you're part of the committee.
you're not going to get paid money to do anything, so you're good.
You're part of the
Okay,
committee.
The next discussion item is reopen 624 crosswalk motion for South Main Street. Mr. Deshaies, I believe the floor is yours.
Yeah, and I think we should, although we've all probably gotten different information from different people. I've been approached by people in town and out of town that, and the universal thing is everybody wants safety. But some people, especially a lot of people from out of town who aren't in the downtown area, not business owners, don't live downtown, have said to me, it's hard enough for me to find a parking spot during the summer if I want to go to a store or to a restaurant for lunch or something. This can make it even more difficult. They don't say they don't want safety, but they saw the ask from Libby Shannon for 6 spots and were surprised that the board did 12 spots, especially some of them like by the post office where there's already an open road before that crosswalk. And so, but that all being said, I think we need to put this off until Mr. Senegal is back for our next meeting, and only because I spent 4 hours when it was 94 degrees down in downtown making a map because it was requested by Mr. Senegal.
That is correct.
And I do not think it would be very ingenuous of us, disingenuous of us to have a meeting with him not here when this is what he wanted to see.
Is there a motion for that?
I just made it.
You made a motion to do what?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we table it till the next meeting.
I'll second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Right here.
1 abstention. Okay, thank you. Be on the agenda for the next meeting. Will you write up something? Is that your ambition, to write up a motion?
I think, I don't know, I think we should have a discussion first before a motion comes forward, because I think we might have to look at each one of these parking spots individually. Not just say, well, let's get rid of 5, let's get rid of 2, let's get rid of 8, or let's leave them all, or let's add 5 more. But I think that it's something that we should.
You're the sponsor.
Yeah.
You get to do what you think is right. Okay? Next discussion item is town website upgrade update. Upgrade update. Say
Okay.
it 10 times fast.
Yeah, just a couple items really quick here so that people know. There's been asks about how we're going with a new website. It's in process. The project initiated on January 6th. It's anticipated to go live on September 15th, and we're currently on track. One of the big things with the new webpage is it will be mobile device friendly, which the current one is not. The current platform is extremely old and very outdated. The objectives on this project are improved user experience, enhanced website navigation, update to the design, ensure mobile responsiveness, and to get this thing moving across the board on a timely fashion. Right now we're on budget, and we're scheduled again to go live on September 15th, which will put us in alignment for the 2026 budget process.
Paul?
Yes, sir.
So,
Shea.
I'm not bashing our town, I'm not bashing our website, I just want to explain something that happened. I wanted to find a water test kit, and I went to, and I found it. It was a little difficult, but I found the water distribution page on our website. And I assume that you've had a phone call from someone there, maybe. On the water distribution website, there was 5 employees listed. 4 of them no longer work for the town.
Right.
And there was a phone number there that had been discontinued. I called and it said, this number has been disconnected. So I ended up getting a good number and calling the water distribution division, but I can see how that would be frustrating for a citizen. And when we propagate this new website, is information like that, Jim, is it going to be automatically go forward, or are the department heads going to have to each...
It's all being scrubbed.
Okay.
It's all scrubbed.
Okay, and will the department heads be the ones in charge of putting in their information, or are they not allowed to?
So they will have the ability to, but most of them have administrative assistants who will be trained in the operation of the website. One of the things that's problematic with it now is the system's so old. To bring in the addressing does get complicated. Now it's just click and pull it in, click and pull it in.
Okay.
So it's going to be much more user-friendly to update the page.
Excellent. We're moving into the 22nd century? 21st century?
All right. Linda, did you have a comment?
No, I'm glad. The only thing I would be concerned, I hope we have all the minutes that are on the website now put in, because I've thrown things away, and I'm the one who'll go back in those old minutes, and I threw them away because I could get them on the town website.
So the way that is, we're working through that so everybody knows, to migrate all of the existing minutes across from one platform onto another, very labor intensive and very expensive to do that. However, with working with our IT company, the understanding is we're going to be able to create a subpage, for better terms, that you will be able to go to that web page, and it will allow you to search for those minutes, because I do the same thing to search those archived minutes. And I remember previously, with this web page that we're working under, you could query based on a search, and we're not able to do that anymore. And that's the one thing I'm hopeful that we're able to bring back is a search query.
Okay, thank you.
We have to do this because Linda will have to buy another house for all the stuff that she wants to store.
I have the stuff
Or she'll
before.
have to kick Roger out.
I have the minutes before that, but once it hit the website, I threw those out. I don't need those anymore.
All right, item F, 2025 assessing revaluation update.
So the revaluation is moving along. I believe this week they were supposed to start site visits in the South Wolfeboro area. As they've done this, one of the things that they're learning is that the preliminary values have increased around 80% in townwide. We know this has been a full 5 years. It's been a pretty robust 5 years in the real estate market, and we're going to see some changes resulting of that to our assessed valuations. Of course, that will be slightly finalized when they get to the final solution. With that said, they anticipate sending out impact notices the second week in August. So that from that point, they will be scheduling appointments. Hopeful to get some of those done before our summer residents leave. If not, we will certainly, the vendor has agreed to do web-based meetings. And currently the assessment to sales ratio is 96%. So this is in process. A lot of work left to do, and you will see them performing site visits in the coming weeks.
Board members, Linda goes first.
Yeah. I just would like the public to realize your assessed value goes up. At the same time, our tax rate goes down. So when you hear how much your assessed value is going up, that's not at the $14 and some odd cents. So some of us will win, some of us will stay the same, and some of us will go down. That generally is the
That's what I was going to say. Your value is going up 80%, your taxes are not.
That's correct.
From Brian's lips to God's ears, Mr. Thurston.
Are we getting a notice in the newspaper to alert people that this is happening?
I don't think there was an alert in the newspaper. There's alerts on the webpage. I can see if we can get something in next week's newspaper.
Okay, anything else? Okay. A discussion and a discussion. I'd like to, since they're mine, I'd like to just speak briefly, but then ask that we take these up as Mr. Duché capably did. I want to take these up when the chairman returns. But let me briefly discuss what's going on. One was the select board work plan. We, back in, when was it, Linda?
December 4th, 2024, we approved them. I asked starting in October, but it took me a long time to get them.
Linda started grumping at us in October for us to come up with a work plan. December 4th, we came up with one. And we said we were going to kind of use that and put it on our front burner. I asked a few weeks ago, how does that work plan and our upcoming budget conversation kind of come together? Because it seems to me you work your plan and you fund the work that you got to do. And I really want to have an ongoing conversation, not a conversation that's like, oh yeah, we did that one and we did this one. This is not checkbox stuff. This is ongoing. I'd like to do that with the chairman present. And the last was committee reporting. And
Can I make it
I'm sorry, Linda, please.
Yeah, I went back and looked at my sheet on it, and there was number 11 that somehow got left off as this list, and it should be work on the community center. And that was asked by Mr. Duché, and for some reason 11 didn't get on here.
So my point, and I think there was a 10.5 when we were talking about the ambulance to keep our eyes on. Remember, you and I exchanged some emails about keeping our eyes on, staffing and those kinds of things. So,
But this one was left off, and if you want to add some more on it, if that needs to be added before our conversation, I just wanted to make sure that mistake was corrected.
Linda, my bad, because that was my copy of the work plan, not Jim's.
And just to let the public know, there's 11 things on the select board work plan. And as Paul said, this is not, it's all done.
Yeah.
Okay, but I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them that we are actively working on and have made strides.
So the good news is if we can find ourselves, and I don't want to belabor this, I want to do this one, Daisy. And did you have another?
No, I'm just.
Come on.
No, I was going to.
Get a free ride.
Well, this is one that just grinds me.
Jars your jelly?
Yes. The water and sewer capacity study.
This is the annual. See, I was going to next week when we do this. I'll say this is the annual. Let's complain about we don't have enough water and sewer capacity studies, and then we'll kick it for another year.
Oh, I didn't put that as one of the 7 that we worked on.
That one always just I've asked for years.
The next one was committee reporting, and again, I will defer this to next week, but I just ask us to think about what we just talked about the past couple of minutes. That Brian pointed out that we have dead web pages. I call that a dead web page when you go to look for something and there's no heartbeat on the page. Now, is that we're bad people? No, but I've been giving a lot of thought to this upcoming budget discussion and why we are what we are. And the question that I'm getting asked by people is, what are you going to do differently? What's different about what you're doing? And I worry about us getting into the new and improved kind of stuff. We have, and you saw that with Maggie tonight, and you see it with what Brian and Linda have done, we have some really sterling committee activities. You may not appreciate what they do, but I want to find a way to get more communication about what's going on in our committees, because people will want to join, and I think it'll help us. So I want to talk about that next time, unless anybody has an objection.
I have a
You have an objection?
No, I have a comment here that I asked Amy to send out to the board.
Yes.
The packet that we send each year to the committees and all the material.
Yep.
And I will let you know that it didn't go out this year.
Yes.
So we need to make sure that it should go out in April. We should look at it. It should go out, and all of them, it takes care of the right to know. It takes care of everything. So some of the answers to your questions will be in that document.
I think all except for the last one. That's
Yes,
the one
I
I want
think-
to poke at.
yeah,
All the others are pretty straightforward, but I just want to poke at that last one and say, can we do, without tasking people, but can we
That's what
do a
worries me.
much better job getting good news out of this town? Because there's a lot of good news that's going on in the town. That's a selfish comment. Okay, Mr. Pinio, I think you're going to, the note I got from Amy here is, well, here comes the budget time again. Discussion of the 2025 budget schedule?
Yeah, so in front of you, you have a memo which is going out to the social service agencies for the 2026 budget funding requests. We're sending that out now because we also anticipate sending the checks to them. So we're going to send the checks, we're going to send the letter, and we're going to outline to them that we anticipate October 22nd to be a joint meeting with you, the Board of Selectmen, and the Budget Committee, if this body here is inclined to do such. So that lays out the letter that will be going to the social service agencies. If you have any changes, I'm here to take them.
Board members, comment?
I have a question.
Linda, you have a question?
Yes, we have yet to see your draft of budget guidelines that we as the board need to approve. When do you see those coming forward?
Next meeting.
Thank you.
Well, there you go, question answered. By the way, just for the public's benefit, we are going to have a joint meeting with these agencies. And if you really want to see what good stuff is going on, come to those meetings, because they don't ask for big-time lifts in terms of their budget. They always deliver quantifiable, great results. That's a little plug for our agencies.
And with that said, on the back of that page is the tentative schedule
Yes.
for the Board of Selectmen to review budgets.
On the diary.
So next week, you will have the budget guidelines. If you have any amendments to the calendar, that's why we're getting it to you now.
And there's something on the agenda here, scheduled visit for walking Abenaki bike trails. Who owns that one?
That's me. So there's a discussion about the upcoming trail work to take place at Abenaki. We can either do that on Monday, which I think is the 7th, correct, or Friday, whatever date that is. Tentatively, I think we're looking at the 7th at 10 a.m. if that works for everybody. That's what Mr. Dow has indicates works for him and the builder.
Please feel free to go without me, I'm not here.
I'll make it, Jim. And thank you, Jim, for scheduling this and making sure that it didn't
It worked really well last year.
Yeah.
So, board members, we have two options, if I heard correctly. Which one do you want to do?
I would say 7/7 at 10 a.m. is okay with me. If it needs to change, I can be flexible.
There's a bid on the table for July 7th at 10 a.m.
What was the other option?
Friday, which is the 11th.
7/7 or 7/11?
Oh, I got a meeting at Monday, so 11th is probably better for me.
I got a bid for the 11th, I got a bid for the 7th.
I'm kind of with you. I have company here, and the end of the week would work better for me.
Okay,
the
so
11th.
7/11 is fine.
Huh?
7/11 is fine.
7/11 is fine, book it. Okay, what time, 10 o'clock?
10 a.m. I will get that booked
Very good, thank you.
and send it out, and I will also notice it as a majority of the board present, because
Okay.
there'll be 3 of you there.
10 o'clock,
All
11th,
right.
okay?
Next item on the agenda is old business. We got any old business? Anybody?
You're moving us.
Any other business?
Yes, I have other business.
Business?
I'd like to make a motion to reconstitute the Scenic Road Committee as an ad hoc committee. I think the committee went, did it shut down in 2021, Linda? Is that correct?
I thought it was before that.
Was it before that?
I just didn't know you were going to do something like that, so I didn't look it up,
Yeah.
so.
But I've been talking about it for a little while now, and I decided I'd like to make a motion to reconstitute it, the Scenic Road Committee, but as an ad hoc committee. And the reason why is because I think with all the trees that have been dying and being cut down, and with the heavy rains that we've had with washouts on roads and rebuilding gravel roads on a more regular basis, I think that we should meet just when there is a concern about a specific roadway, if it's on the schedule to be built, if it's on the schedule to be treed or something like that, and the citizens want to get together. And I have a lot of, probably a half dozen people that are willing to join the committee that is a mix of individuals.
There's a motion on the table to reconstitute the ad hoc committee, ad hoc scenic road committee.
Yeah.
I have a second.
I'll second, and I'd like to speak to it. I'd like us to have a little better purpose that we can write down as a direction. And if we're going to go forward with it, it needs to have some kind of
mission statement.
So,
mission statement, or I'm not quite sure what you're planning to accomplish. I second for a discussion item.
Okay.
just so you're aware, I was able to pull up how I found it. I don't know. The 2018
Okay, I was. Yeah.
mission statement, procedures, maintenance policies, et cetera. I think the one clarification that you may want to make on this, Brian, is this rural roads or just scenic roads? Because scenic is kind of covered by statute.
Yeah, scenic is
Rural.
Rural roads, okay. Correct my statement, Rural Roads Committee.
So, any other comments?
I misspoke.
Who are you directing the committee to respond to?
So as any committee, the EDC or any committee, they have to talk to the Board of Selectmen. That's the way all committees are in the town. They report to us.
So what department head would you be directing to?
What do you mean, what would they be directing to? So Steve Randall could be part of the committee if he so chose to be, but if the Rural Road Committee has a discussion on a certain road that was washed out that's going to be needed repair, or a series of dead trees that are on one road, or something else, they would come with recommendations to the Board of Selectmen. It would just be an advisory committee. They don't have to. They don't have the authority to do anything. They have the authority to be the eyes and ears for rural roads in the town of Wolfeboro and come to the Board of Selectmen with their concerns, suggestions, plans, anything that they think would help the rural character of the roads in Wolfeboro.
Can you get your question answered, John?
Yeah, I'm a little concerned that, we're affecting the Public Works Director and his direction and his planning and that type of thing. I mean, trees get cut, we have we subcontract through our electric department, and we have a process for that also, don't we, Jim? Yep. So, I don't...
Yeah, I think I can bring up one I think is a discussion about size of vehicles going up in the area. And is there a possibility for another plan of how we plow? Perfect example of a discussion that we could have. We could have Steve there. It would come back to us, but it's no different that he comes to Wolfeboro Water sometimes he doesn't. It's the same kind of a committee. I think that if we're going to keep the rural look of our rural roads, I think there's some of the upkeep and of them that we should have some conversations. And these are people who live on those kinds of roads, and I think it would help Steve more than anything else. Steve and I went to the North Wolfeboro Association meeting together to talk with those people. So I think it's being willing to have some conversations.
I can appreciate that. Again, I I would like to hear from Steve whether or not he thinks that he should be taking additional input and how he thinks it could benefit him.
Okay, anybody else? I'm inclined to move to table this, not because I don't like it, but because it just kind of dropped on us. It would be helpful, at least for me, to have just a short write-up of what you want to accomplish, how it gets organized. The notion of having 6 people who have already signed up, that's good. However, there might be more people who want to sign up with saying,
yeah.
I get left out of the wagon.
Well, it would go out. What I did was I looked to see if I could find any interest, because if you don't have interest in a committee,
I agree.
yeah, and it would of course have to go out to the entire public, and anybody who could join could join.
So I'm going to recommend we table this until you come back with something that we can chew on, look at, and vote on.
Yes, we have a motion and a second. Are you asking Brian to remove his motion and my second?
Yes.
That's what he's asking. Because if not, it's going to get voted down.
Yeah. So I would say,
Table, babes.
Because if not, it's going away.
yeah. Well, if it goes away, then I can just tell all the people on rural roads that the town doesn't care.
No, that's scorched. You know what? That's Meshuggah.
So, but okay, I'll withdraw my motion, but I will say that my motion is coming back next meeting, so be prepared.
Well, it's coming back with a write-up.
Yeah.
I'll withdraw my second.
Thank you, Linda. I appreciate
You're welcome.
Okay, so any other old new business? Town manager's report. Having fun.
4th of July weekend coming up. The offices will be closed on Friday. Lots of activities going on in town. There will be fireworks display on the 4th at dusk. Relative to other things going on in the office, we're getting the 2026 budget stuff together. That's about all I have at this point.
Okay.
Can I ask Jim a question?
Sure.
Jim, we got a picture of food service vehicles in the no parking areas in town, and I was wondering if they knew that their location was on the hill above the Winnie Paw with the buses, and that would allow them an area where they could offload their product and bring it to the restaurants.
I'm going to say they probably don't, John. I think we all know that there's been a long history of the truck drivers double parking in the downtown area, making their deliveries to the restaurants. I think that the removal of the parking spaces has created a greater problem, because now they see a place to be able to land. I can actually send out to, or get a list of who the primary vendors are and send it out as to where the location is, and if they would please abide to that. I ended up doing the same thing recently with a bus company, so this is good information to be able to get to send out to the truck companies.
At one time, I just recently saw 2 buses in town, 2 tour buses, and 4 different trucks at restaurants at the same time. There's no room for 6 spots up past the Winnie Paw station. And then if they park up there, they're blocking the handicap access to Cape Park.
That area in front of Cape Park is reserved for bus dropping off, so let's not start getting trucks in their area. That's how it's zoned.
So, town manager report, now we've done
So
with that.
can I ask a question?
Sure.
So where should these people offload their product in a safe manner? Because if they're taking up the spots that we created for safety, and people are walking out behind these huge trucks and trying to cross the crosswalks, then I see that as an issue.
I think you're right, it's an issue. They've double parked
But the
before.
rhetorical question is, are we telling each other that they weren't delivering product prior to us messing around with the crosswalks?
Good point.
Are we telling ourselves that? No, what they were doing is they were parking double out in the street, and so, because I've heard a couple of people say, wow, we got a real problem now, they're pulling into these parking spaces. They were delivering food well before that happened. So I'm not sure, we have to maybe rethink what we do. I mean, somebody, I read something somewhere, somebody said, because we did this with Hunters, we told our good friends at Hunters, hey, between X hour and Y hour, no more food deliveries, right? We did that over at Hunters. And maybe somebody wants to put a conversation on the table that says, between X hour and Y hour, you're in there, and after Y hour, you're out of there. But again, I'm collecting data on things, and I'm wondering out loud whether we're dealing with a problem, and it's a safety issue, I got it. Whether we're dealing with a problem that's that big because it happens during a handful of times during a summertime, or whether this is an annual problem we're dealing with. So, double parking is the way it used to be. Now we've created an opportunity for them not to double park. But they were always delivering food.
So, I can't confirm it, but I have talked to a dozen businesses in town, and they say that sometimes a double parked truck would encroach onto a crosswalk, but now where the spot is available that they can fit their tractor trailer, they like to get off of the double parking, so it kind of, the long open spots directs them into these locations, which now causes more crosswalks to be blocked off, but it's only for the time that they're delivering in the mornings or whenever, but it is happening.
It's an issue.
It's an issue.
It's an issue, okay. Committee reports. You want to go first?
I just attended a planning board meeting for a brief moment last night, and that's May.
Ms. Murray.
I'd like to go back, and I missed this under other business, and I would like it, I think we all received it. We had the question in public input, asking about the Pop Whalen revenue and putting in the ice and what the figures are, and I want to thank Jim for putting that together. Can we put that on the website? The reality is that with the commitments that we have now and an estimate of expenses, it looks like we'll make around $8,000.
Yeah.
So I'd like that response.
I can have that put on the Pop Whalen website, and, you know, that really did fall on Brian Paul. He's the one who put that together in pretty rapid succession. The other thing is, I forgot, you have a letter in front of you drafted to Governor Ayotte regarding requesting her to veto some bills that are coming in front of her. This letter, I had 2 Board of Selectmen members ask me to draft it, so I've drafted it. Here it is in front of you for consideration for signature.
Okay. So we'll put that in the folder?
No, it needs, if we're going to go
out ASAP.
It needs to be
voting on the bills this week.
And these are all the ones in terms of zoning that we've been speaking
Except for
about.
except for electioneering, that's the one, could somebody maybe, because I didn't, I'll be very frank with you, I didn't dig up the bill and read it, but since you all are going to prospectively sign it, can somebody educate me on electioneering?
It would mean that, say, a town employee was talking to a citizen and said, you know, I like this person, I may vote for them. They can be prosecuted for that.
Well, that's not a good idea.
I would say
That's
not.
why it's on here.
That's not a good idea.
I would say not. I would say
No,
that,
honestly, I hadn't read the legislation.
Yeah.
If that in fact is what it is, fine. Do we need a motion to send this?
and the only other one is, there's one in there that is for budgeting, which would restrict our ability to control our budget as much as we should. A lot of these mandates are put in place to correct problems in large areas. There is 30 or 40 representatives in Nashua, 30 representatives or 40 representatives in Manchester. So when they get to vote as a block, that's how we get mandates that will maybe accommodate some of their situations, but won't accommodate our situations in Wolfeboro. We get overlooked. From what I heard, the last number I heard, there was 22 or 24 or 26 different communities that have also signed and sent this letter in.
At the time this letter was written, it was 22 other communities have
Okay, I think
fallen
it's up
in
to
line.
about 20.
And I have written my own personal on a number of these. So I would like to make a motion that we sign the letter to Kelly Ayotte, asking her to veto HB 457 resident occupancy limit, HB 475 modify the calculations of a default budget in SB 2 towns, HB 577 ADU expansion, HB 631 residential building in a commercial zone, SB 213 electioneering by public employees, and SB 284 parking space requirements.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to write a letter to the governor. Ms. Murray outlined the items. Any discussion? Call the question. All those in favor of sending the letter say aye.
Aye.
I'm abstaining.
We have one abstention.
And Jim, so I got a call from the governor's office today, and I can provide you with a good email so that it can be emailed in the morning. And if you want to send a hard copy after, you can.
Okay.
Yeah, if you could get that to me this evening, I'll try to get it out.
Good.
Yes, sir.
So we still have committee reports. Mr. Thurston has given his. Linda, you had other business, but now you're back on committee reports.
Okay, most of the board met with the new town planner, and that was nice to the opportunity to get to meet him. I attended the Lakes Region Planning Commission annual meeting. Pat Tarpey from the Winnipesaukee Alliance was the main speaker. She was speaking on water quality and watershed management plans. I attended the New Hampshire seminar on budgeting. It was an excellent refresher course for me. Community TV, we had a meeting. We are working on the campaign. Materials going to come out that we're going to try to raise $75,000 per year for 3 years for a grand total of $225,000. And I should say that board is, I'm not personally. I attended the Chamber of Commerce social, and I went to Wolfeboro Wellness Cooperative, and it was down in the old schoolhouse. It's run by Luke Freudenberg, and it was an excellent presentation. I'm wearing my shirt. I went today to the opening of the Historical Society. It was free admission, and they're celebrating their 100th anniversary.
Mr. Duché.
So I also went to the budgeting seminar, and yeah, you always pick up something that you don't remember, or there are changes in the regulations too. I've spent a huge amount of time on Lake Winnipesaukee Day getting that lined up for the August 8th date. I will be walking with a group of people in the Model A Club, passing out flyers with QR codes for the event. We've had our first budget meetings, and the first budget meetings are just getting things lined up. And other than that, I walked the sidewalks, made a map for Dave Senegal, and I've had a lot of conversations with people about got the sidewalk ordinance together. That was one thing. But walked in and did the map with all the no parking spots and the crosswalks, and I've had lots of conversations with people in the downtown corridor and out of the downtown corridor about the parking spots. And I think we can find a common ground and a compromise.
Okay, my report, outside of you folks meeting with the new town planner, I met him the other
Oh, I met
day
with him too.
for a second time. I think we lucked out. He's a solid person. I was at the planning board last evening. It was the shortest planning board on record.
Absolutely.
It was great. It was great. It was
You're
awesome.
home?
I as well attended the budget seminar, which if you don't stay fresh on these things, you're darn well on the path to making a mistake, and shouldn't do that. I was very pleased, and I want to thank Amy. I understand Amy and others pulled this together, but I want to give Amy a big shout out. And Brian, like you, I took it to heart with two of our members who came to the microphone and said, "You got any data?" And that was kind of a personal challenge. So I'm in the mode of collecting data on our parking situation, and I'll be keen to wanting to present that to folks. And it also, to my colleague to my right, who said, for the longest time we've been thinking about a parking area, and so I think that what I'm starting to collect is going to help us inform us as to whether we put that on the burner or not. So that's my report. I have a responsibility now to ask for questions from the press. Do we have any questions from the press?
Not on.
Not on. Public input. 3 minutes. Limited to 20. Doesn't look like we have any takers tonight. I tried to get us done by 8:30. I screwed up. Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Thank you. Have a good